Would you date a bus driver?
Right, welcome, kings and queens. Today we are talking a very hot topic. You know, relationship topics are they're hot in the market right now. Relationships seem to be the buzzword. But there was a dynamic conversation that transpired between Iyanla Van Zant and Eboni K Williams. And Ebony posed the question to Iyanla: how can women position themselves to attract a man so that the woman is able to create and not build? And Ebony said a lot. And when she finished, Iyanla looked at her and said, would you date a bus driver? That's the $1,000,000 question of the day. Ladies, would you date a bus driver? That's a yes or that's a no. It doesn't require any additional text. It doesn't require any additional words. Yes or no, and why? I want to hear your thoughts. Put it in the chat and let's talk about it. For those of you who are just tuned in, or if you're new to the channel, welcome to the palace. I am Queen Sheba. I cover a variety of hot topics specific to reality television, but most importantly, I hone in on the psychological and the behavioral traits of the Black experience.
Subscribe now. Subscribe now.
Would you date a bus driver? Would you date
If
a
he
bus
owns the bus, if he owns
No.
it, if he owns the bus,
See, that's a problem. That's a problem. That's a problem.
Okay.
Because the standards and requisites, and I'm not talking about him laying on his sofa playing video games all day. I'm not talking about that. But the standards and the criteria that we use to measure men is off for who we are as men.
It's a straight up front question. Would you date a bus driver? Because I don't think a lot of women will. I don't think a lot of women are willing to date a bus driver. I can bet my bottom dollar. And I'm not saying they should or should not, because I know at a particular age I would not have. And I'll tell you why a little bit later. But let's get back into this video.
I would date a bus driver if he loved driving the bus, if he was a man of integrity, if he was good to his mama, if he treated me well. I would date a bus driver. But
I am a huge advocate for women. I want to do well and thrive in every area of their life. Right? But one thing I've come to learn about us is we can be extremely hard-headed, extremely stubborn, fixated on what we want. And we're willing to die on that hill, and some women have. In the manosphere, they call it hitting a wall. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say that women hit a wall. There are times that women stop taking care of themselves. You know, they're not as physically agile as they used to be. Life happens, but that happens to both men and women. So if we say a woman hits a wall, then it's only fair to say a man hits a wall. But I think women can maintain themselves if they have the resources to be able to do so. And I find it ironic that Eboni K Williams, when Iyanla said, would you date a bus driver? Ebony immediately, thank you for your honesty and your transparency, queen. She said no. No, right off jump. She didn't ask any questions about him. She didn't want to hear his history. She didn't care if he was in medical school, resident. None of that mattered, right? She didn't care about his heart as a man, his family, where he came from, his level of education, all of that. She said no. And it causes me to think a little bit beyond the video. Ladies, do you really want a husband, or do you want a man with a title? do you really want a husband? Or do you want a man that comes already with a full benefit package? And don't say both, because my question was pretty, do you want a husband or do you want a man that comes with a fully loaded benefit package? There's a complete and distinct difference. I don't like to talk to women about relationships and choosing men because I feel like I understand how women are about their man. Listen, you can look at the statistics. A man can be everything wrong to and for a woman, and she will stay there and continue to take it and take it and take it and take it and make excuses, right? For her lack of self-esteem, for her lack of self-love, her lack of truth. And after a while, she conditions herself to say, oh, he's a good man. My bad, because I forgot, because this happened or that happened, right? When historically, if you look at the trend between the relationship between a man and a woman, she probably should have walked away a long time ago. So back to the question. Number one, would you date a bus driver? Number two, are you looking for a husband or are you looking for a man with a fully loaded benefit package?
But we think that it's another human being's responsibility to give us what we need instead of us building together. I can build with a bus driver. I'd have my little stash over on the side in my prenup, but I could build with a bus driver.
Early in the morning on a Saturday morning to go pour into a group of young boys, a group of teens, a group of young men that are not his lineage and his bloodline, so that they can excel and progress in sports, mentorship programs, rehabilitation programs. And they listen. Those young boys, they look at those men. They admire those men. They show up on time because they understand that those men represent hope. Those men represent opportunities. Eboni K Williams is seated at the throne of wisdom. At the throne of wisdom. And I'm completely shocked that Eboni did not ask more questions about the wisdom of the answer that Iyanla was putting in front of her. And I think Eboni may have gotten caught up in her own thoughts about the life that she's painted for herself on her vision board. But the real gift is you were sitting in front of a queen that was pouring out this devout wisdom, giving you overflow. It wasn't just about a man. It was the wisdom that came with the woman that you had the opportunity to interview. And I feel like Eboni did not capitalize on that. Eboni, I could see your wheels turning. I could see your wheels turning. Now, here's the thing. Eboni, you said, well, I'll wait. You said white, black, yellow, brown, all of that. You've dated all of them. You've dated them all, and they're all the same. And to that, I want to challenge you. Maybe you're the problem. Because we know you won't date a bus driver, right? You've established that. So we can assume that the men that you have dated, and this is not an attack, but ladies, I really want to encourage you to stay curious about life and to stay curious and be willing to look at things from a different perspective. Now, Eboni, you said you would not date a bus driver. So we know you have not, or we can assume that you have not dated a bus driver or a blue-collared worker, to say the least, a man that really uses his hands to work. And we could probably assume that you have dated men of a higher echelon, higher income bracket, education level, and none of them have worked. Have you paused to consider that maybe you are the problem, Eboni? Have you paused to consider that perhaps pivoting, taking a step back, maybe you're, I don't know, right? And like I said, this isn't an attack, but maybe what you're reaching for is outside of your reality. if whatever it is that you've had in the past has not landed, it hasn't stuck, and it has not led to forevermore, will you marry me? My husband, my wife. Consider that. Let's play the rest of the video.
I know that you've said that you cannot teach a man or tell a man how to be a man. So I will not ask you to indict men in this question. But I do want you to speak, Iyanla, to how women need to, position ourselves so that we can be in our divinity, so we can have our crowns right, how we can create and not build, when some of us, quite frankly, feel that the men that are available to us, and I'm talking about across the color spectrum, across the age spectrum, trust me, I've done them all, they are not.
I noticed something that Eboni said that I found very interesting. She says, how do we position ourselves as women so that we are creating and not building? It's the same. Creativity is building blocks, right? And you have to be willing to build your home. You can't create a marriage. You have to build a marriage. So that was the first red flag to me, hearing Eboni speak. Marriages aren't created. They're built. They're built on hard work. They're built on communication. They're built on love. They're built on sacrifice. They're built on togetherness. They're built on patience. They're built on frustration. They're built on irritability. They're built on confusion, contemplation, likeness. They're built on dislikeness. There's a lot of things that marriages are built on. So that was the first red flag to me. Do you really have a full understanding of what it takes to be a wife and to attract a husband? Or is your primary focus on getting a man? Because if so, I can understand why you would not date a bus driver if you're looking for a man and not a husband.
Positioned to protect nor provide because of some of the statistics we just talked about. They're not earning the incomes. They're not having the resources, and some of them are not even showing up in the leadership.
Would you date a bus driver? Would you date
if
a
he
bus
owns
driver?
the bus?
Eboni is sitting in front of Iyanla, is a well of wisdom. A well of wisdom. And as smart and sharp as we are, ladies, you should always pause and adhere to wisdom when it's in the room. As much as Eboni said, she said nothing. She said a lot, but she said nothing at the same time. And that's the difference between being smart and being wise. Because you can see it took Iyanla not even 2.3 seconds to respond to her with the rhetorical question, right? Which is what we called that's similar to how Jesus would teach in the Bible. He didn't debate your beliefs and your ideologies. He would just pose a question to you. And that's what Iyanla did. She stripped Eboni of all these falsities and all of this hoopla and all of this fluff that we talk about and that we've misunderstood to be symbolic of happiness and a happily ever after. You see how Iyanla went in and just said, would you date a bus driver? And it's not in Eboni. Whoa, I'm just saying like this. Iyanla was not even talking about the man at that point and the character and the countenance of a man. She was putting Eboni on display to show you. And it wasn't an attack. Let me say that. She was showing you the full character of the woman. Would you date a bus driver? And Eboni said no, if he owned the bus. Well, everybody has to start at the starting line. Because I can guarantee you any man that's owned a bus has driven a bus. And if not, I don't know if I would be riding that bus or trusting his leadership, right? Not to confuse that with struggle. Because I think a lot of women confuse building with the man as struggling with the man. But let's get back on and see.
If he owns it. If he owns the bus.
See, that's a problem. That's a problem. Okay. because the standards and requisites, and I'm not talking about him laying on his sofa playing video games all day. I'm not talking about that. But the standards and the criteria that we use to measure men is off for who we are as women.
The KPI, the key performance indicators that we use in today's generation to measure a man. When your data, when your little meter is going out, boop, 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 do you agree with the Iyanla that we're off? And put it in the chat. Why do you feel that? I thought that was a dynamic conversation. I feel like I gave a lot of commentary throughout the video, and it just goes to show, ladies, we have a lot of work to do. If marriage is the goal, then what the hell are we doing? Not suffering, not struggling, but if marriage is the goal, what the hell are we doing? I look forward to extending this conversation, and if you are interested in being a panelist and coming up and talking about this from a woman's perspective, hit me up in my DMs on Instagram or